And we are live. We are live. How are you, Mr. Hatfield?
Good. Dante, good to see you, buddy.
Good to
Definitely.
s- good to see you. You know what? What's funny is it's like alumni week. I went to an event out in Hallis Hall last week, and I saw Nick Corso, and I was like, "Oh my god,
Going way
that's
back.
way back." So I was just like, so like we
How's he
literally like
doing?
hugged because like hadn't seen each other. He's doing great, man. Real estate investing, buying properties, got still the same energy about, real estate and all that good stuff. And I was like, dude, I haven't talked to you in such a long time.
That's great
So,
to
and
hear.
now I get, oh yeah, it's awesome, man. Now I get to see you.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and I know we touch base every so often. So thanks for having me on, and it's always fun to. I think we're just always in the same camp. Whenever we talk, it always is like love flying all over the place because it's like a bromance. So it's like, man, this guy's always got his act together. He's always pushing forward and always helping people, really, at the end of the day. So I appreciate you throwing it out like, hey, come on, let's have a little bit of fun and maybe do the educational tool, which is really I think the corner we both come from, right? It's just like education.
100%. I think you mix in with some social media and basically have edutainment. That's what I kind of came up with is education with entertainment, and we have a little fun. I wrote this about today, and I really feel strongly about this, and I love to get both of you guys' take. Good afternoon, Vince.
I was
Vince.
waiting. I was waiting for you to announce that I'm here today.
Vince
What's
is
up, Matt?
here.
Yeah, what's up, Vince?
So just so you know, he keeps everything polished, and then sometimes there's stuff that comes out of my mouth that probably shouldn't.
All right. You got the bleep button over there?
No bleep button, so we just let it ride.
Okay.
But today we're talking about something quietly reshaping the American dream. For decades, the path was simple. You outgrow the house, you move. You need more space, you move. You want a better kitchen, you move. But something shifted. Mortgage rates climbed, inventory shrank, and suddenly millions of homeowners looked around their living room and realized this isn't just where I live, this is where I'm staying. Welcome to the era of the immovable homeowner who are locked into low rates, rooted in their communities, emotionally tied to their memories, financially tied to their mortgages. And instead of chasing a new address, people are rebuilding the one they already have. Walls are moving, basements are transforming, kitchens are expanding, homes are evolving, not because people want luxury, but because people want possibility. And today, that's what our conversation is about the possible nature of renovation loans that you don't really see the real big box banks doing. And that's really our kind of niche in the marketplace. What do you guys think?
One of those niches.
One of many niches that we have, but a key niche nonetheless. It's obviously an opportunity for us to help people, fall in love again with their own house.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this for, I don't know, well, I've been doing this every once in a while, once or twice a month. You've been doing this 3 times a week for the last 5 months, and we haven't differed from got to take the money out of the walls, whether that's moving, whether that's improving, either way, however you want to look at it. And now rates doing, the lower we get in the rates and where we're at, the easier it becomes to do that.
What are your thoughts, Matt?
Um, to add on, Vince and Dante, the where you stay and when you look around your neighborhood, and this flows, I think, into what we talked about before too, some of the shortages in the marketplace. There's so many sort of constraints and then variables that people are taking into consideration, and so the renovation loan program, which we're sort of going to walk into here, is a way for them to stay in the neighborhood that ultimately, like you mentioned before, hey, you want a bigger home, you sometimes you just went across town, and that just isn't feasible necessarily in this marketplace. It's just, one, you can't find the exact home, right? So you just can't even find the house that you're looking for. And there probably is just top number one issue is like, okay, wait a minute. And it comes full circle where people go, okay, well, wait a minute. We really like where we're going to live. And then they start thinking outside the box. Like, well, can we add on to our home? Can we turn it into the house we want? So, like you just said, the money's got to come out of the walls or, be invested in a way that you move, but then what do you get for it? And I think people are finding that to be very challenging. And we all know that. We hear the stories. It's very challenging. And that's what brings about the information today. just how can we help people really realize there's a way to solve some things, especially if you really do like where you live and you're constrained by square footage.
One of the things that just came out, this is news that came out this morning as I was reading and prepping for this, was that the average first-time home buyer age went down. So right now it's sitting at 35. It got already, as high as like 40 years old, and it just peaked down to 35. But then, to go along with that, the repeat buyer, the average age of a repeat buyer is now 47 years old. So, and all of us have been in the industry long enough. I remember where it was, you usually stayed in your house within 7 years, you were moving again. And so now we're actually seeing people live, almost double that. Right now it's 12 years. And there's so many things that can happen in a 12-year time frame with kids and, health, disability that, will require some things to be actually done within the house.
Yeah, specifically aging in place. And, we can always get back on topic, guys, and yank it back in a different direction,
Sure.
but that's a perfect segue. Aging in place, that's been around for, I think, a while, and it's not going away. So that one piece of the puzzle, if we go to the long end of the spectrum here, and we have our seasoned clients out there, boy, oh boy, do they move from those bathtubs to, easy step in, stand-up showers, all the different things that help them, whether it's bars inside a bathroom. And we have those contractors out there ready and able to help with our age-in-place consumers. And that's been going on for, many, many years. You kicked off the show with, you're exactly right. You moved to make these solutions. And now we're just in new variables in the era of the United States. And it's been around, but the iteration that's been going on for, 15, 20 years now is like, hey, here are some more loan programs. And I might add too, not to usurp a long segment here, but it wasn't a great program 20 years ago, right? Like, guys, it got pretty expensive maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And I would just say, like, after 2010, I think FHA and Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac started to be able to identify, here's a way we can help the consumer. And they started to become, what's the word I'm lacking right now? Sort of like, I don't know. They brought it back into where it's not as an expensive adventure to complete these transactions, these renovation loans. Does anybody want to hand it from there? I don't know.
I was going to say that the age in place issues is probably what caused people to start looking at this and what caused FHA to look at, like, hey, this isn't being used, because the age in place is becoming more and more popular. Obviously, the population's getting older, people are living longer, and cost of supportive living facilities are very expensive.
Wow. How many turns can we take here?
Well, I mean, but all right. So let's get into it. So how would you explain a renovation loan, Matt? Yeah. How would you explain it to your client? What is a renovation loan?
So the renovation loan is simply taking your thoughts about what you might want to do inside your home. And that could be structurally moving walls, adding on square footage, going up with your home, out the back of the home, adding on different pieces to the home, just repairing the home itself. There's a big segment of society that just need to update. They don't need to add square footage. But renovation really has a contractor coming in. So you have this third-party person. You're not going to do the work yourself. And you're going to outsource some bids that you get, and you're going to select one of these contractors that you feel like you have a really good relationship with and work with them to where they're going to give you a scope of work and they're going to give you a bid. And so you're working with either their design center, and it doesn't have to be a big company. It could be smaller companies that do cater to you very well, where they are going to give you that bid. And you guys are going to be on the exact same page between that scope of work, which Vince and yourself, you guys both know, we need this bid that shows the breakdown of how the labor and the costs are associated with this. And I try to keep the consumer on track. I've got some, my own process to help them understand that it's not as difficult as you could ever imagine it to be. In fact, it's supposed to be. I try to turn it into being a little bit of fun, but the renovation is exactly what you want it to be. Hey, I need these things improved in my home. I have to bring in a contractor to get the bid so I understand what my total cost might be. And then the flip side is that once we sort of are at that moment, then we're going to be able to work with the loan program that takes your vision, and we're going to ask an appraiser, and I'm jumping forward here a little bit, but we're going to take that bid and that scope of work, and we're going to ask our third-party appraiser, hey, what's the value of this home after this work is completed? So not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but when you're looking for a renovation loan program, the great part about these programs, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and FHA, all three of these companies are GSEs, government-sponsored entities, do provide this. They're going to give you the after improved value. And so if the consumers out there listening, and you guys know this as well, I find this to be the greatest piece of the puzzle, is that you get to use the value of the home after the work is completed. And therefore, that's where we borrow the money for. You're going to create equity because you're going to be putting the work into the property from the renovation construction company. And we get that after improved value for the loan we're going to do today. And there's that equity you have. And then you also have the ability to tap that equity to pay for the actual renovations. I hope that went over and articulated.
I think so. I think it did. I mean, obviously, a lot of people use the acronym ARV. And I was curious, obviously, what's fascinating, we both have boots on the ground, but, my clientele doesn't see your clientele. We don't really ever have a competition. And that's why I thought it was fine to have this conversation. But how do you determine ARV as you're preparing and structuring the deal? Are you working with a realtor? Are you just trying to analyze Redfin and Zillow yourself? Or what are you doing?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really good point. Yes, I will incorporate a realtor when I find that there may be some nuances and some variables that look a little bit difficult to assess. I'll bring in some more professionals. So just like you might, or Vince, we're going to use the tools we have. And there's really good tools out there too. So we don't want to miss the benchmark, right? And we don't want to set up any of our clients to fail. So guess what, guys and consumers out there, what do? We put in a lot of work on the front end to help the consumer to figure out, is this viable? Is it reasonable what we're attempting to do? Is it going to fit inside these constraints that we have known as ARV, after repaired value, right? And there's probably 3 more acronyms that different banks use for that same ARV, right? It's just acronym bizarro world we live in. But that after improved in value is what really sets up the whole file. So for the consumer and how to calm their fears, or more importantly, encourage them to understand that they can complete it, is that you sort of, in my world, I sort of lower the bar to the lowest level where I tell them we can finance up to 95%, or with FHA, 97.75% of the value. So where we go very quickly is, if all else fails and we get the worst value possible, and even FHA goes above 100%, that's a whole other conversation, 110. So if we lower the bar and we say, now it's doable, and this would be the worst loan you could potentially get your hands on, and that's acceptable, then at least we have a safety net. So I'm always working with safety nets with all the consumers. It's like, hey guys, let's work, let's not do this high wire act with nothing underneath. Let's just make sure we know the worst case scenario, we have something that's going to work for you and it's reasonable and it makes sense for you. And so I think we started a zone where we're excited knowing that the worst case is really not that bad, because when I say the worst case, typically people are amazed that that loan is just as good as if we got a really high value, and then that loan is just as good too. So the disparity between those two loans, when you really compare them side by side, it's like the worst loan is actually worse. It's just a loan.
No, it is just a loan.
No,
you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
What generally for me, I would say that 45 to 60 days is probably the correct turn time for a renovation loan, or are you able to spin them out even quicker?
Well, that's a smart way to look at it, but yeah, we could turn them out quicker. I mean, you can, but in my emails to my consumers, there's like a checklist. And if they're really sincere and they're really serious about doing stuff, they've got a lot of stuff done on the front end, right? They've got their contractors all picked out. A lot of them are doing paperwork with either an architect, or they're pretty far with the scope of work and getting the bid, and they're just trying to get that number as close as possible. And then we have people that start with me first, and then we sort of go backwards and we try to find that builder. So the idea of it going quicker, 100% possible. You could easily do it within 30 days. No
Sure.
problem. It's just those first 1, 2, 3 steps in that benchmark. It's like, hey, if we're here, we start your loan program, you can get it done very quickly. Now, where's the biggest problem? The villages, sometimes these permits, they can't take a long time. So I think for our piece of this equation, that puts us in a precarious position if we're like working on a file and we're still, permits. Now we can close loans without permits being completed either. We can do that, but that you don't want to start a loan that they're making payments on, and yet the work isn't getting started for months and months and months. So we're trying to time it, but that's what we're here for, right? We got jobs still, guys, right? AI
Exactly.
hasn't worked completely.
Well, we're like the quarterback.
Let's keep it to the 45-day timeline, guys. Let's just keep it to the right?
Like I said, that's smart. That's what I said. That's the smartest thing, right?
I mean, let's factor in a couple, potential issues and some delays. Let's just keep the expectation at 45 days.
This is true.
And obviously we're talking about it as, remember, we can do this for people buying homes too. So let's just make sure we put that out there. Like I know we've been talking about, hey, it is for both purchases and existing homeowners.
Correct. And also too for investors, and I was going to get into that next, but it was funny. I had a client that we closed in December, and it was a refinance, and so he was going to do the work on the renovation. And to your point on permits, 10 weeks in the city of Chicago, 10 weeks, can't even touch the property. With someone calling, dialing 311 to maybe a stock work permit that could really, delay you even further. But I was, talking to him, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, 10 weeks. Wow.
There was a variance up in Des Plaines. I closed they were so close. They're ready to go. They're trying to get in before Christmas and get everything running, and ground was getting frozen and get concrete poured. And there was just some small little variance. And I just, followed up with the client in the last 60 days, right at the beginning of the year. And she's like, Matt, we're not going to start breaking ground. So we closed in October. That's one of those weird set of circumstances. They're totally fine. The clients are excited. They're going to get things moving forward. But just one small little variance. It had something to do with the brick, somewhere off the ground somewhere. This is not to set up any fear for anybody, but the villages can have some little hangups from time to time. So, something to be mindful of.
And
yeah. Oh, go ahead, Vince.
If it's something you're interested in, make sure you get with your village to find out what you can do. How far up can I go? Can I go up, or do I have to go out to the side and I'm not allowed to go up? So every village, every town has its own rules. It's all based on your lot size.
I was going to ask you guys, what makes renovation financing feel more complex? I know loan officers out there, even if they have the product, they steer away from it. They almost are allergic to even offering the program to clients. So what, in your opinion, makes it so complex?
You want to go for it, Vince, first? Or
I'll just say it. Majority of loan officers don't want the extra work that it takes to do it, and a little bit of education. And I'm not throwing that as a shot, but that's basically what it is, right? As a salesperson, you want the easiest way to do it. And if that means someone else taking money out of their 401k or finding another way, you present that first. Unfortunately, that's how our industry works. And for us, that's why we do these shows out here, is to educate that those are options that are out there. Just got to find the right person.
Yeah, find the right person. If it's a consumer or realtor, even the consumer that calls me, and we can maybe jump into a little bit of what you guys see coming back to you, like referral wise, but through me, it might be the builders, right? So there's just construction builders in the Chicago Collard counties. So-and-so gave me your name, Matt. Can you help me understand what my options are? And so whether I'm talking to that consumer or somebody else just thinking about it, or I find a consumer out there trying to buy a home, and we know when we see the right consumer, this is good information for them to know, and we can present it to them. So Vince, you're spot on. Dante, you know the deal too. You got to have the knowledge, because I give it to them all the time. If you really want to move forward with this, that's great. I know how to execute it. If you get in bed with somebody that says, oh yeah, don't worry, I can do this, you're just you might be setting yourself up not to fail necessarily, but you might just have some hardships and some headaches in there, and they can't see through all the little nuances that get in front of you sometimes with these loan programs. And so it's not, again, there's There's no fear here at all. It's just, if you've gone through it and you know it, and now I know you guys know this product as well, then you can make your consumer very confident. And I guess, I mean, what do we leave it there? Because, you know,
no, you're answering the question. I mean, you know, it's funny because my first house was a 203K. I did a FHA 203K myself. So
for you,
know, yeah, for me.
Yeah, but that's because he's in the industry and he looked at the benefits and he's like, this is what I'm going to do.
Amen.
It's a no-brainer. I mean, why not get the ugly duckling and fix it up, renovate it?
Hey, go from there now.
What
do you guys think about that in this market right now? To me, we got people putting in bids with 10 other bids, and clients calling me out of left field, and they go, Matt, oh my goodness, I found oh my God, the home is so beautiful, you know, and oh my God, this is so great. You know, it's a Saturday or whatever the case, Friday, over the weekend. Well, if you like it, 10 other people like that home too. And that's the market we're in right now. And I'm not taking people away from trying to keep going down that lane. Please, by all means, buy the home you want, right? We get it. But you got to have vision in this market where this is where you could, I don't know about the word mop up, but you can get in the area you want to be in. And maybe you're not looking at the best bell at the ball. You're looking at a home that's got some rough edges on it. And you're like, hey, a limited 203K where there's no consultant required.
Sure.
Right? And all the little things we can talk about that is an awesome product to step in. And now that limited 203K is at $75,000. That's going to put a lot of cheddar on.
There's a new kitchen without having to do any construction and moving the walls, right? I mean, there's the new bathrooms and everything that's remodeled. The only thing is the agents that represent the buyer need to teach the selling agent, hey, this 203K loan is going to add maybe an extra week. Don't discourage this offer because it's a 203K.
Yeah, I agree with that. The education really has to be on the listing agents. They need to be aware because sometimes they get allergic at times to like your offer and they see 203K on that pre-approval. They're like, no, seller, I have to show you this legally, but no, you don't want this. It's going to take forever. And to your point earlier, it doesn't have to take that long. And from a home buyer perspective, when you're buying a house that you're renovating, I mean, I just feel better about all my pipes are new. Everything's been removed and replaced.
Mechanicals, electrical,
100%,
all there, right? And,
yes.
And I know we said the ugly duckling, and I just want to put this one out there. And I may be a little off, and Matt will correct it. If you're renting and you're looking to buy a house, now's the perfect time. Stay in your existing rental, buy the home, do the 203K, move in the first 6 months or 5 months worth of mortgage payments get rolled into the construction loan, and you only have one payment, which is your rent payment. And by the time the construction's done, you're moving into the new house. That's the greatest way of doing it for people buying from a rental conversion. And I mean, we could talk about that all day long, but I just want to put it out there.
Exciting product. And you're spot on. And consumers out in the marketplace and realtors and builders and so forth, what you just referenced, Vince, it's by market to market, meaning pick an era of 2016 to 2018 where something like that may not work. And I don't want to get into all the small little variables, but you're in a market with what Vince just said actually is possible. And there's other times where that may not be, feasible. And you could still use a 203K, but maybe rolling in all of the monthly payments can't get squeezed into the entire program. But the truth is, in this market where you have year after year, 8%, 10%, 11%, 12%, I just read some appreciation, excuse me. I finished my sentence in my head, but we're short on home building. We're short on inventory. People, it's not going to get easier getting the home you want at the exact price you want to buy it at. And we're walking right into 2026. And you guys have all experienced this year after year after year. I would have lost bets coming out of like 2022 into 2023 or whatever, 2023 and 24. I'm like, all right, this is going to be sort of a flat appreciation year. The inventory is low in the Chicago market, and we have more buyers than sellers. It's just the numbers are there. They're not lying. and we're down, maybe 12,000 listings from like 2018. I was reading the other day. So in a normal market pre-COVID, you should have like 38,000 units on the market in like Chicagoland market. We're like 25,000 right now.
Yeah, no, and Vince and I, we talk about the birth, just the birth rates. The number one population of folks are millennials, and the second largest population is Gen Z. After the pandemic and they passed the baby boomers. So what are those people doing at that age group? They're buying homes, they're getting to the home buying, having families, all that type of thing. So it just makes sense. And then it's like, instead of looking for, I'm all good. I just like a new house. I mean, from my experience, and just I've seen the bad contractor, right, that didn't want to get two dumpsters, only had one dumpster, and put garbage in the behind the drywall. I've seen craziness in my life that's like, OMG, did that really just happen? I mean, there's no insulation. That's garbage. But I mean, to that point, just having everything brand new, it makes you feel comfortable. You can sleep at night. So let's get into the products. I know a lot of people out there probably are tuning in right now because they want to know about products that are there. We talked about FHA 203K. What are other products that you're using, Matt? I think you referenced a little bit, but let's just go into the specific products that are out there.
Yeah, well, I tend to lean towards the home style. It's a Fannie Mae loan program. It's been around. It iterated first in 2015 to become a very, very, very successful tool. And if you saw what it was before and what it turned into, it's something you probably should have run to just to help your consumer base, because it's just another arrow in your quiver. So the 203, or excuse me, the home style renovation loan program from Fannie Mae allows you to borrow up to 97% of the after repaired value, like we had spoke about before. Now, typically, I try to point out to consumers that 95% is more of an optimal level. If you hit those higher LTVs, it's just a couple percentage short of the highest, and it does incorporate just a little bit better rate versus the 97%. So again, something to be mindful of. What's important about that, and I think that this is just very useful information, like I had mentioned before, when you are going to look at your home, and lots of people, this is coming over. I know you guys are seeing this stuff too, and we're doing more and more of these in this market, is because people cannot find other homes out in the marketplace. So the home style will also allow for some unique things that 203K will not, such as pool installations, sheds, detached garages, what they call luxury improvements like fences, landscaping, things that FHA just, they don't incorporate into their loan program. So you have this extended ability to sort of move outside of the home and do these like outdoor spaces that consumers really, do enjoy incorporating into where they currently live. So as we went parabolic with the interest rates in 2022, this is where my eyeballs went. As we could tell, consumers who are buying homes for 6.5%, 7.5%, 8%. Rates were, I was quoting at one point, it was only for like a couple of months, but people are trying to buy investment properties. I think I had quoted a few times like 8.99% and 9.25%. And the reality is like the phone went dial tone. I mean, let's just laugh. Everyone, our consumers are awesome, but like you're just working with the market. Like, well,
Sure.
Here's where we're sitting. So, those are investors. Those were some rates that had to do with investors buying some investment properties. But, our consumer out there was buying homes, and amen to all the consumers that recognize, here I am in my life at my crossroads. I'm going to buy a home, 6.75, 7.25%, which is way normal of an interest rate than what happened in COVID, which got everybody's brains completely confused. So now they have a chance, if they're sitting at 6.5% and 7%, consumers, you put 10% down, 5% down, maybe 20% down or 25% down. Your house over the last 2.5 years just gained some of the most, amazing appreciation. And you personally think, hey, I might want to do a renovation on my home. Talk about the perfect client that's going to swap out a 7.25% for another, like a lower rate. So like the renovation loan program for any consumer that bought a home in the last 2.5, 3 years, spot on. like spot on. You're sitting at 6.5%, 6.25%, 7%, 7.25%. If you wanted to improve your home right now, you're not going to take an inferior rate, 8%, 8.5%. Rates have been coming down. Our timing for something like this is amazing because here we have just naturally the 30-year bond, a 10-year bond, and everything is just naturally coming lower. And so now we have access to these rates that allow people to incorporate whether you want to go into landscaping or hardscaping and get into those other things, fencing, garages. It may not necessarily be adding onto the current home. So I know I got into maybe a lot there, but
that's good.
Yeah. Oh no, you got into a lot. I got one quick comment.
Yeah.
In 2020, the max loan amount for a conventional loan was about $417,000, right?
Man.
All right. And I'm glad we're laughing because that means you know exactly where I'm going, right? And today we're at roughly $850 being allowed. So people that have equity, you have opportunity to do this construction loan and to do those extra things that Matt brought up on the home style of adding the pool or doing the hardscaping that you might not have thought to consider to do in a true financial picture.
Repairing your whole driveway. Like there are, so those calls that come in, they get categorized, right? And so I think all of us understand at the end of the day, once our consumers hear us and we're really giving them really good information, they can go back to living their life while we take over and really help set them on the right path. And even though I know we're airing some really good information, the calls that are either generated or people are more inquisitive, ultimately at the end of the day, there are loan programs that help you guys really improve the home, and it's not nearly as difficult as you could imagine. You know,
Matt,
awesome.
Since you just did that, Dante's going to do his halftime show. Say your contact information, and just so the audience knows, we all know each other for over 15 years, so I could joke around with Matt. So throw your contact information, let everyone know how to get a hold of you, and we'll get into the second half here.
Sounds great. My name is Matt Hatfield. My direct number is 630-440-8076. You could also reach me at matthatfieldmortgage@gmail.com, matthatfieldmortgage@gmail.com, just like my name is spelled on the screen here, and the word mortgage@gmail.com.
Awesome sauce. They and just to finish up that topic, obviously we have the FHA limited and standard program. We have the Fannie Mae home style. Freddie Mac has a choice renovation. There is a USDA renovation. If you live in a rural area, if you're down in Georgia, down in Florida, and you have a USDA loan, we can do a renovation for you down there. There is a VA renovation as well that we have actually done. So we can do VA for all the veterans out there needing to do renovation. There's an opportunity there. And just the newest one that's out there is the fix and flip product for investors. So we are helping investors, fix up these homes, renovate them to sell them or to, have them as long-term rentals. So keep those in mind. Those are all the programs that are out there for renovation, but I wanted to make sure I covered that so people know there's a home for everybody. But this episode today is sponsored by Epic Mortgage. Whether you're buying, investing, or refinancing, call Epic today. That's 708-905-5300. That's 708-905-5300. It's your dreams, your goals. Let's plan together. Now, after the show is over, if you're on Facebook or if you're on LinkedIn, please go and check out our YouTube channel, Epic Spotlight. Doing a monologue this year every Friday morning, Saturday morning. They just changed it on me. So every Saturday morning, there's a new monologue. We're reviewing books that, can help you and relate to you on mortgages or real estate. So we definitely want you to check this out. And then also to make sure you're looking at our Epic Spotlight podcast. Had a great episode last week. OMG, I forgot her name, but I'll make sure I have it but it was a great conversation. I know I had. So make sure you check out all the Epic Spotlight podcasts. And I appreciate everyone giving it a thumbs up. And if you like this episode today, make sure you give it a thumbs up if this is the type of information that you're looking for, and we'll take it from there.
Hey, you got to plug the book.
Of course, the book. Yes. In 2023, I wrote The Ultimate Mortgage Guide. It's available on Amazon. What it was alarming to me was in 2023, there were still questions that I was being asked. And those are the same questions I was getting back in 2002. And I was like, my goodness, people are not getting enough education out there. They still are clueless on some of the things, basic knowledge that you should know, especially when you're engaging with a loan officer. I felt like I would give something out there for people, regardless if you work with me, if you decide to work with someone else, it's okay. But this is great information for you to take, read, and learn, just so you're more aware of just all the mortgage opportunities that are out there. And so it's called The Ultimate Mortgage Guide, and it's available on Amazon. Thanks, Vince.
No problem. The audience knows I always tell them, since I don't see it in the background today.
I know. I was running late. But we do have questions, and I appreciate that. We're always looking. If you have questions, put them in our chat, and we'll get to them. So we'll start answering these questions right now. Make sure we answer everybody. Jack wrote, great tips. Which loan type is best for older homes? Anybody want to tackle Jack's?
I mean, I'm going to say they're both going to accomplish the same thing, but I'll let Matt kind of get back to that. Older home, I'd be more concerned about foundations and things like that to making sure everything's right.
Yeah. You know, like we mentioned a second ago, you sort of fall into a category. And so the first question I would have for a consumer like that would be like, what are you trying to fix? And so without, like, you want your house to be safe. But at the same token, if you're not going to fix something in the foundation of the home or some other issue, and you're just focusing on a bathroom, so, you know, a limited 203K, there's no contractor coming in, consultant coming in looking for any type of structural repairs or anything to that effect. So if you're just limiting things to just like cosmetic work, or you're doing a bathroom and so forth, an older home, it really wouldn't matter which one you're working with. It really doesn't. Ultimately, it's whether you're having structural work completed or not. And I think that that's probably where the conversation would move to. Are you moving a wall? Are we taking out a beam? And therein lies where there's going to be more assessment from one of our consultants that does have to show up on site when you choose to do that. So there's a lane we would pick, and then that would sort of dictate what loan program you could go with. Otherwise, yeah, just maybe I didn't answer the question here.
No, it's a good answer. The only thing I would add to that is, you know, your credit score is going to dictate what products and programs are available to you. So which loan type is best for an older home? Well, first we would have to start with the credit. We're making a little bit of an assumption that, you know, maybe it's a 740, 760, but if you have a 670, 620, that's a different animal that may, you know, put you, you know, 100% into an FHA standpoint. So we first have to know that credit score.
What are we looking at on a FHA 203K on a traditional, not the streamline, 640 minimum or 660, just to let the audience know?
I thought it was 620, right, Matt? With an exception at 600.
I think you're at 620, but you know what? I've got scenarios sort of templated. Let me run one really quick. We'll just take a look here.
Yeah. Last time I bumped into a lower score, it was 620 was the minimum with a 600 exception with was that Spectrum Lending now, Mr. Tatum.
All right, let's call it that.
Supreme.
Thank you.
Supreme now. Supreme.
I knew it was an S. Spectrum.
You know what though? MMI Mike and his whole crew over there, they were just great to work with. Lanisha White was the underwriter for all their files over there. Yeah, I really enjoyed working with them. I did have one with Supreme last year, which it threw it for a boomerang. I'll just tell you right now.
Different animal.
Just a little bit. A little different animal. They're owned by a different company now, and we had to go to a corporate level. It wasn't just Lanisha calling the shots. It was like we had to go through another layer on something. I forget exactly what it was. It was fine. We got it solved, but I want to say it was 620 as well when it comes to that. I sort of noticed in the comment section here, somebody had asked too.
We're going to get to it. Go
ahead.
We'll get to it.
Let me see if I can come up with
Matt, your first time on the show. Let us dictate the questions. Hold on.
Sorry, guys.
Jennifer says, this show is amazing. Learn so much in just a few minutes. Appreciate you listening, Jennifer. We appreciate that. Clayne, can renovation loans cover a full home addition? Yes.
Yeah. Big. There's some big projects out there. I've done $400,000, $350,000, $500,000 additions. And like Vince had mentioned before, now that our we're well above 800,000 now for the conforming loan limits. So especially for conforming FHA, where did they move it to this year? 540.
You're in the fives. I mean,
555.
Yeah.
So you're still, I mean, even with FHA, I mean, that's a healthy amount of, room. If you're at 300,000, you want to do $200,000 worth of work. I mean, you can get it in there, 250,000. So,
gets higher for unit properties too. So let's not forget about that too.
What was that, Vince? I apologize.
Well, FHA loan amounts go up for units.
MVA.
Yep. And then also too, if you're going to get a HUD foreclosure, a HUD home, they do have that $1. And so actually I had the client that did the $1 down payment on a HUD home with adding the 203K. So, you can get funky with the HUD foreclosures as well.
You're going to heaven, my friend.
Come on, man. You got to do it all, baby. Nick writes, how long does a typical FHA 203K loan take to close? You want to tackle that one?
If you work with Matt, it's 45 days. If you work with Epic, it's about 30. No, I'm kidding.
Well, now you're gonna set them up to fail. I told you before, 45 is fine, but if your ducks are in a row, it's a little quicker. But we know the deal. Yeah. And here's Supreme coming up, guys. I mean, 620, and I think here's where we all know we get into the weeds. We express certain things, and in the mortgage business, and we all know this, there's a million caveats, and then we can always laugh with our consumers. They start talking logical and reasonable, and I'm like, what are you doing? Don't talk logical. Don't talk. We're in the mortgage business. So
not in this business. Crazy.
Not in this business, man. Amen. But 620 is showing up here, no problem.
Can I use a HELOC and a conventional rehab loan together?
Wow. I've never closed something.
No.
That never. Yeah.
My initial said no. Because a HELOC is separate, right? A HELOC is separate. A conventional loan is separate. So in theory, if you were going to get a conventional rehab loan, let's say you got that first. I'm trying to, go with the customer's or the person's question. I have a renovation loan. I do a refinance.
Yeah.
And I'm capped at a certain DTI.
It won't pair up though, because if you're in a conventional rehab, you can't get a line of credit because the property's under construction.
ARV, the whole thing. Those two just don't.
But you would have to. So the sequence though, if you did the rehab loan, now you could do the HELOC after the rehab loan in case you needed to either pay yourself back or you needed more additions that you couldn't get done.
Correct. Yeah. And by the way, guys, let's just jump into this other part too, that there's so many variables. All of this is that the after repaired value consumers out there, or anybody listening, we have consumers who think a HELOC is the right product to work with, and you can fall short. And now you need more money to finish the project for whatever the reason might be. So inside the home style or the Freddie Mac Home Choice or FHA 203K, you have to remember we incorporate a contingency reserve. Right. And so this is all built into the loan program. Vince even mentioned about housing monthly mortgage payments. In some cases, you can do that as well. So the reality is the reason it's built is that sometimes a consumer thinks like, I'm going to be able to contract this myself and I'll pay people myself and I'm going to, make sure this project goes really smooth. And it's sort of interesting because when the builder and the consumer, and then you have a renovation loan in there, you've got people that are protecting you. And so you sign off on work that's been done by the builder and you all have to sort of kind of agree. And that's not a difficult task, but if you have some grievances, there's protections in the renovation loans that do help the consumer say, hey, listen, they can't get paid unless they're actually doing the work correctly. It's amazing.
I love that you answered that. What was it? On Thursday, I had a closing and it was a client that I did back in August. And we were doing it again so quickly because she didn't take enough money out. And to your point, these HELOCs and stuff like that, it's like, you do have to be careful. The renovation loan is a purpose, it's something that should be looked at and evaluated for your, particular situation. So that's a good point. Brad writes, are renovation loans worth it? My mortgage rate is super low. So let's talk about the 2.5. I got the 2.5 30-year fix. I got the 3.5. I spoke to someone. Oh, I got 2.5. I'm not touching my mortgage. Does the
Okay.
renovation loan? I guess what's the alternative, right? What is
Right.
the alternative?
There's a need, right? I mean, again, we're getting into that point. We're years and years away now from 2.5% interest rates, right? So the need is you want to do something, you want to upgrade your home. How are you going to do it? How are you going to access the money, right? I mean, and that's all it comes down to. So maybe the renovation loan's not the right loan. Maybe it is a HELOC, but then you don't have the safeguards and everything else that go with it. And then it's the question of how much money do you need and how much equity do you already have in your existing home? Because if you do a HELOC, it's not going to give you the aftermarket value. It's using the value today. You're not getting the improvement value.
True.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, but let's have a little fun with this with Brad. Brad, this just came up 3 weeks ago. Consumer calls, referred by a builder that I work closely with. And he says, Matt, here's what's going on in my life, and this is what I need to sort of do. Now, I'm going to change the parameters a little bit, but at least you'll get the idea. It's called the blended rate. So let's just say you're sitting at 3.99% at $275,000 over a 30-year term, and now you need to borrow $225,000. And so the consumer says, I think I want a home equity line of credit, and they may have the equity to do it. They might have the equity. But prime rate's at 6.75%, and the banks out there, whether it's regional or some of the banks we have access to, you're probably going to find yourself at 7%, 7.25%, 7.5%. So when you hit the blended rate calculator on this, it does come in at 5.46%. This exact program I just laid out there, 275, 399, super low rate might be 2.5. Here, let's just change it and see what happens. So I do try to help people do understand to come to the consumer, go to the consumer, 275,000 at 2.5% over 30 year, and the 225,000 you're borrowing at 7.25%, which is actually really low. You could find second mortgages at 8.5, 9, 10. I mean, I'm like just being probably in some ways setting people up to fail, but that's a low rate for a second mortgage. Let's just say you get it. Even then you're at 4.64%. Now, I'm not suggesting somebody's going to want to do this, but we do have 15 years in the 5% these days. Sure. So there's a lot going on, and you have to weigh it all out. Your numbers could be all over the board here, and it could simply be a blended rate. When you borrow this HELOC you think you want, you got to pay at a higher rate. So there's a lot going on there. You got to run all the numbers.
It's hard to be a loan officer because you have to do it just like you did it right on the phone as you're talking to the client. You got to use those little fingers and be like, hey, but I'm looking at this here and check out the blended rate. That's what we do.
There was an aha moment with that client 2 or 3 weeks ago. There's like a pause.
You mean I don't need to take the HELOC. I could just take a 30-year fix and be safe and don't have to worry about it.
And when you start looking at how those monthly payments like sort of, come together again at the end of the day, and there was a question over there. I don't want to get back to the question I wanted to read, but yes, you can refinance after you do it. And the truth is, the product is so effective, you could just go forward with it. It's a 30-year fixed rate. And we didn't talk about that. This is not like you are forced into like a 12-month construction loan. And everyone's heard about that out in the marketplace. Banks run this stuff. They charge you 1 or 2 points, but then you got to do another loan at the end. No. When you close, you're done.
It's one close, one loan.
Yeah, the fix and flip product works exactly like you said. It's basically a 1-year bridge loan, 12 months to get it, get in, get out, and then you're either going to refinance again to lock it into a 30-year fix, or or sell the property to pay it off. So that is important to note. So on USDA, VA, conventional, and FHA, they're all 30-year fixed loans locked in.
Ready to go.
This is the one you wanted. Can I refinance later after using a renovation?
You've been dying for this question.
Yes,
for the last 5 minutes.
We teed it up.
Somebody asked that twice. Then I thought I saw it at the top. No, I don't know. Yes, of course you can. And so it begs the question, guys. And I'm going to say this: lots of loan officers in the world, and we all approach things to do what? Be effective for our consumers. They need to be the benefactor. And so if I call it just the game of trust. If they can just let go and let us, you, Vince, we work on these loan programs. I have funneled and helped consumers realize like what you're doing right now, this rate will go on forever. It's awesome. But you could also potentially take a quarter point higher in the interest rate. And there's more lender credits to help offset some of the little things that are going on with the loan itself. Don't want to get into the weeds with how all that works, but there's just times where your loan officer just knows best. And so if you're not spending a lot of money to get a loan that you need, forget renovations, forget it. You just need this, whatever loan it is, and it doesn't cost a lot. It sets you up to win in the future as well.
I heard this over the weekend, and I really like this concept. It said, no longer are we loan officers, we're debt managers. And our job is to manage people's debt. And so, hey, your financial advisor is managing your assets, but I'm your debt manager and I'm managing your debt. I'm going to find where cheap money is, and I'm going to break it down where it makes the most sense. And if you allow me to manage your debt and trust, right, take the leap of faith, because real estate in a whole is leap of faith. That's where we have to go to move forward. So I really like how you answered that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I want to throw something in there. Matt, you got a calculator handy? A mortgage calculator?
No, I lost that many years ago, man. But I got
plug a loan amount of $300,000 at 4% and tell the audience what the P&I payment is.
Yeah, hold on 1 second here.
4%, 30-year, $300K.
Oh, 300,000 you said?
Yeah.
Actually, let me do it this different way. Give me a second.
Sure, you got all the time you need. We're here to 1 o'clock.
You're gonna put a side note in there. Hey, get ready. I'm coming at you. Hold on.
Vince keeps you on top of your toes because you don't know where he's coming from. Hey, but while you're doing that, nearly 3 out of 5 homeowners say they would rather renovate than move in today's rate environment. 3 out of 5, 60% of homeowners say they'd rather stay put and just renovate. And so we do want to give people, and that's why I thought the topic's so important, because if people are really feeling like that, eventually over time, there's always something you want to update, whether it's the paint, your kitchen, the expansion of rooms or adding a bathroom, all those things are in play. Go ahead, Vince, with your scenario.
You got that number for me?
1432.
So 1440, right? Now let's change it to 6% and 500,000. So we talk about debt managing, right? So we talk
2997.
2997. So basically double, right?
It doubled. Yeah.
But that's $200,000 worth of equity that person potentially has. So when we talk about debt management, asset allocation, and what we're doing, is that $200,000 worth an extra $1,500 a month? Whether you're doing that to pay off your debt, whether that's college education, whether that's home remodeling, just putting it out there from a picture standpoint. That's all I wanted to do.
That goes along with the post that you posted on Facebook.
Yeah, it does. I figured you'd lead into that one, but
I loved it. I read that. I was like, and it hit home with what I was, learning over the weekend. So I was like, yeah, I'm a debt manager. I'm not a loan officer.
What experience what are you guys seeing? I think I know the answer, but are you guys placing any second mortgages? I mean, you guys working with UWM, Spring EQ? Are you guys placing some of the second mortgages out there that requests that you're getting? You are. Okay.
Yeah, no. So I would say yes. No, I'm getting those phone calls. You have those people that are sitting at 3.5, 2.5. I probably haven't pushed as much of the blended rate calculator in their face as I probably should, but it's just the quick concept of I have this low rate. I don't want to touch this. I don't. And so it's like I don't even want to touch that subject. Okay, whatever. I'll do the line of credit for them. We're affiliates with Rocket over here, not UWM.
Sure.
But we do, so we have Rocket, we have Spring EQ, we have Forward, we have other different lenders that, can provide a lot of an array, because a lot of situations, especially are either maybe a lower credit score that came in, mid 600s, and then they get hit in that world. It's like, hey, that's
that's tough.
It's tough for a
world,
man.
Yep.
Let's remember, for those second mortgages that we did write over the last 2-3 years to keep the client afloat, essentially is what I'm going to call it, because that's usually what a second mortgage is all about, because there's a financial struggle that you're looking to pay something off. Now may be the time to look to get out of that second mortgage with the drops in rates that we've had.
Yeah, great point.
And bringing the term down and getting into a blended number that makes more sense into one loan at the current marketplace, right? The second mortgages were a Band-Aid until the consumer basically has faced these higher rates were here. Now they've come down, and we've adjusted from the 3.5% or 3% quote.
Where I was going to go with it, just very quickly, what Vince just had me do with his own little formula there is what the aha moment is with consumers that say, hey, Matt, looking potentially tap a little bit of extra cash, HELOC or fixed rate second mortgage, and really they take the math and they go, wow. So 50,000 equals what? 400 and some odd dollar payment. 100,000 equals some $600 payment. Just do the math. You show it to them and they go, wait, I access 100,000 and my monthly payment is that X, and they can really move the needle in areas of their lives they need to do something with. 50,000 too. I've got someone doing a bathroom remodel right now, and they need multiple bathroom remodels, and they're paying off $30,000 in credit card debt. That's at 18 to 28%. So it's just, you're exactly right, Vince. If you have access to 200,000 and you actually run the numbers, allocating that in the world, it can serve you really well.
This is exactly why we did this when we first started, right? I used to always tell people, Dante, the new cash out refi is tell the consumer to sell their current home, strip all the equity out, go buy the new place. So then this way you don't leave any equity in the house you sold. And then you turn around and go put 5% down on the house you're buying. And that's the new cash out refi, and you go buy your new home.
That has actually been happening just naturally. You're paying off some debt as you buy your next home. That just naturally has been happening forever. And maybe more so now. I'd have to look at that a little closer, but it seems like that's just always sort of the case too.
Well, I always look at it like you're leaving a 20% hedge in your property in today's market unless you sell it.
Right. Because 80%
because you can't go above 80. Granted, you can come back and say, well, we can go to a 90 with a second, but if you're going to sell it, take all the money and redo it.
I think the reality twofold is equity means nothing if you don't use it.
Yeah.
We have conversations of, I got this equity and I got all this. Doesn't mean nothing if you don't use it. And then the second thing I think of is, life be lifing. And
there's his tagline. He's used that one before.
Life be lifing. Things have happened. And so now eventually it finally has hit a point of, what is it going to be, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years? How much can you hold and keep everything going when you need to raise your hand and say, hey, I need help? Because when you got the 2.5%, the 3.5%, the 4% interest rate, you didn't necessarily earn it, right? And that's what me and Vince have talked about, when we started this show. Some of those people habitually were bad. It was just what the market bared. And so in the mortgage business, you get an interest rate really on what the market is bearing and not necessarily what you've earned from your habitual nature. And so now those habits have formed in a way where now they're hurting. And it's like, you got to pull the trigger, and everyone who doesn't need cash, all of us on here would do a little bit better if we had 100K, 50K, some type of additional money. And so now everyone's finally, admitting, okay, I waited 3 years. I really need help. Can you get me, X amount of dollars? And that's what we try to do here is help them out as best we can.
Amen.
We got a couple more questions here. I
want to make a point to that too, Dante.
Yeah.
I think you and like even the consumer knows, right? Normal rates. So, you had these rates that were totally unnormal, below normal rates. And then you come out of that. And we've all have now digested that problem in the market. And we're back to normal rates. And that's the great part is that
we're below normal.
We're below normal.
Hold on. Let's remember here.
Thank you.
Statistical average is 6.5. Let's not forget that.
Spoiled.
Okay.
Spoiled.
But human nature, though, Matt, this, and I'm sure you're dealing with it now. I'm getting the client, hey, the rates have dropped. Let's take advantage of it. And what did they say? Well, I'm going to wait and see
until
if
I
they
get
continue
another quarter of a point.
I think the rates are going to keep going down, so I'm just going to wait.
Hey.
Why refinance now when I'm going to refinance then? And I'm like,
I don't even get it. And I will push anybody that happens to be listening, or a friend, or you have a friend or a friend or a friend, and send it out. And I'll just let everybody know right now, you have to hit the button as fast as you possibly can. And I'm going to go on record right now, because I never try to take, some type of stake in the market. But the truth is, you have to move the needle. You cannot be catatonic your whole life. You have to be like, I just have to take my shot. I got to be done right now. And guess what? It's just about the affordability of doing it. If you feel like you're spending way too much money to do something, then you have to re-review it. And that's what we're here to do, is like, just review why you can do this right now and not be fearful about if something crazy happens over the next year and a half, it will be okay. You're not going to be inordinately putting yourself in a bad position, but take advantage, because the market does what? I mean, it just does that over and over and over. So to me, you just got to take the shot you have now. If you've been waiting around, make the move, and then just watch the market. And, you can wait 10, 11, 12 months, maybe even 24 months before you might want to do something again, or maybe not. Maybe you're like, holy moly, that was amazing what I did.
We have over 400 people listening to us right now. And so what I would like to say is I attribute it to like Vegas. Take some of the chips off the table.
Off the table.
Take them off the table. You're winning.
You're winning. I've been using that all week. Like, you are winning. And then I just move forward, because I have clients that want to move forward. And then there's some people that there's nothing you can do. And I think we're all in the mode of how we help people. These aren't sales pitches. It's like, you can beat your chest, but unless people really, really want to do it, that you can only do so much.
We're 5 years. We're 5 years from COVID, and we said earlier in the show, people move every 7 to 8 years. So just think about that, right? So all these rates are eventually going to cycle out. I saw something like half the mortgage. Now, granted, we got properties that are free and clear, but I saw something like 60% of the mortgages in the marketplace are above 4%. So it's filtering, if that was true. I didn't source it or not. That's what Dante is for. I'm sure he'll get to that at another time.
Over 80% of homeowners with mortgages have rates below 5%.
Below 5. I said 4.
Yeah. 80% of the market. So I think at one time it was in the 90s. And so now it little by little is starting to come down.
Yeah. Got it.
All right. We got 3 more questions and wrap it up here. Can renovation loans cover energy efficient upgrades?
Yep.
100%.
Yes, it can. Thanks, Dennis, for listening. And which is faster, FHA 203K or conventional rehab loan? Kind of the same question. I mean, basically, they all run the same. You still have to. It depends on what FHA. There's 2 types of FHA 203K depending on how big the project is. But as far as the process goes, it kind of generally runs the same pace. You do have to work with obviously a licensed general contractor who's bonded and has insurance and all that good stuff. And they have to prepare itemized bid, materials, and labor. And last question, is it possible to combine a personal loan with a renovation loan? Okay, so we've had 2 of these. No, can't combine a personal loan with a renovation loan.
No, you can't.
But great questions. No, I mean, obviously the audience was engaged. Really appreciate everyone listening today. Make sure you give this a thumbs up. And Matt, let's get your contact information one more time.
Matt Hatfield Mortgage at gmail.com. And direct cell number is 630-440-8076. Guys, this has been a blast. I look forward to doing it again at some point, man. I don't know, but there's so much to go over. An hour isn't even enough time. For today, it is. But definitely look forward to maybe doing it again with you guys as well.
Vince.
Yeah, I think we'll let him back on. Everyone knows how to get a hold of me. It's Vince's cell phone number, 708-359-8578. Email Vince at epic.mortgage. Thanks again, everyone, for listening, giving us the time today to have this conversation. And Matt, thanks for showing up.
Yeah, man. Showing up is half the battle.
Just show up.
Streaming.
Have your mortgage calculator ready.
Yep.
Yeah, make sure you
never know what I'm going to ask for.
No. Hey, I really appreciate both you guys showing up. I just wanted to say, I mean, it's kind of a view of my past. I worked with Matt, oh my gosh, for 8 years. Definitely day in, day out, there was questions or just needed to talk something out. I went to him. I stood in your office and had conversations in Lombard, Illinois. So no, yeah, I
I'm
appreciate
going to
you.
Dante to get answers. Don't try to twist it. This guy knows.
I went to you. I was like, man, let me go to Matt Hatfield. So no, I appreciate
That's because
you,
no
Matt.
one else was in the office. You were in that little closet.
Hey, Dante.
They shoved me in a closet. You see how it is, folks? But no, I appreciate it. It was great always having Vince and Matt, and no, good information today. And yeah, to your point, 203Ks and renovation loans in general, it's a lot to talk about. We probably didn't even talk about over half the stuff that I thought we were going to get into, but it was a good conversation. We'll definitely have to do it again.
Amen, guys.
Yep. Sounds
all right,
good, man. Everyone take care.
I will be back hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely see me on Wednesday. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.
Take care, guys.